Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and the Washington Commanders are not playing. Adam Peters is purging every little bit of Rivera out of here, man. We just cut a former 2023 first-round cornerback, and we're going to dive into some alarming stats that come from that Rivera era and how much work Adam Peters has had cut out for him since he's gotten here. Also, we had to place a starting running back on the injured reserve. We're going to talk about all of that. And the whole time I was doing all of my research for this video and everything, all I could think was Rivera. You know how like Timmy Turner dad used to say Dinkelberg? I felt that exact way, but Rivera in my mind, man. We're going to dive into all that and more. But, of course, this video is also sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we move on to everything else, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Of course, today is my birthday, so I really appreciate all of the birthday wishes that I've been seeing. I've been super busy, but I really appreciate those, and I want to get to the comment section and try to reply and thank as many of y'all as possible. But of course, I will also be live streaming that game against the Tennessee Titans tomorrow, so make sure you pull up for that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so breaking news, the Washington Commanders have released cornerback Emanuel Forbes. Even though, like, breaking news wise, you know, I guess because he's a first round pick, that I guess that's why it's breaking news, but we're going to talk about it soon. This guy hasn't played since the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Like, this is not really breaking news. It's not like we just cut a starter or anything. This is surprising. Oh my Lord, how could the Commanders do this? The only reason it's breaking is because he was a first round pick from last year, which is absolutely, like, terrible. You already are cutting a first round pick from just 1 year ago is insane. That is like ridiculous levels of malpractice to the point that I feel like Rivera should be fined right now, even though he's not working for the NFL. They gotta find a way to punish him for this one, man. And we're gonna dive into this whole situation about none of the Rivera first round draft picks still being here. Emanuel Forbes was the last one, now he's gone. We're gonna get there. Also, shouts out to Commanders Realm for pointing this out. Last year's 16th overall pick now released. That means that all four of Rivera's first round picks have been traded or released, not only just in general, but in the past 13 months span. A historical draft failure. I completely agree. And I'm not going to lie, I thought they would wait until the offseason, but I'm not very surprised, like some people may be, that we cut him just at all, because this man hasn't played a snap since the Pittsburgh Steelers game, y'all. And even then, he only played in 2 snaps in that game and only in 6 snaps the game before that versus the Chicago Bears. So he hasn't even stepped onto the field for us since November 10th, and even then, he'd only played 8 snaps total between the last 2 games before November 10th. He hasn't actually played 20 or more snaps in a game since October. And I was rooting for the kid to finally figure it out and for some switch to finally flip or something like that, for something to finally just click in his head. But him being released and him being on the team will almost not feel any different at all. Like, it pretty much felt like he was already cut after the Steelers game anyway, since he hasn't played for us regardless. And I mean, just real quick, just to take a look at Pro Football Focus grades. Of course, I don't normally agree with them. Typically I actually disagree with them more than I do agree with them, but I think this is about right, because we thought his rookie season was bad. At least he had a 50.9 overall grade then. This year, so far, up to the point that now we just cut him, he had a 35.4 Pro Football Focus grade and didn't even play enough snaps to be ranked among all of the corners in the NFL. That's insane. They felt like his best game was against Cleveland with a 61.8 grade, and they felt like his worst game was the first game of the season against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then they just pretty much felt like he was worthy of like a grade in the 40s and low 60s and sometimes the 50s other than that. But again, this guy played 2 snaps against the Steelers, 6 against the Bears. He played 29 against the Carolina Panthers. That's probably only because we assumed that we would just whoop on them. I mean, we went out there with Marcus Mariota and did them boys bad. So that's probably the only reason he played that many snaps. Because if you go back to the Cleveland game, which was his highest graded game of the season, mind you, he only played 4 snaps. The only time he actually like looked like he was a consistent contributor on the team this season was week 1 against Tampa Bay and week 4 against Arizona, because remember, he got hurt in between. After that Arizona game, that guy barely played. And after the Arizona game, the only time he actually played significant snaps was against the Carolina Panthers, who we assumed we would probably beat as soon as we walked into that stadium to play those guys. So now, just to update you, the Commanders have now cut or traded away all 6 first-round picks from 2019 to 2023. 2019, Montez Sweat traded. 2019 quarterback Dwayne Haskins cut, RIP. 2020 defensive end Chase Young traded. Jamin Davis, 2021 linebacker, cut. 2022 wide receiver Jahan Dotson traded, and 2023 cornerback Emanuel Forbes cut. That's an interesting trend right there too. Traded, cut, traded, cut, traded, cut, the whole way up from 2019 up to 2023. That's actually really crazy how it alternates like that. I'm just now noticing that as I'm recording. But remember, Rivera got hit here in 2020. So Montez Sweat does not even count for that. Think about this. Of the last 6 first-round picks prior to Jaden Daniels, shouts out to Cooling It with Coach Breeze for this one, none of them made it to their second contract with the team. Montez Sweat is the only one who actually made it to the last year of his rookie deal, including the 5th-year option. That is absolutely crazy. And again, he got traded, and he wasn't even a Rivera first-round pick. That was a Jay Gruden first-round pick. It's amazing that Jay Gruden first-round picks almost outlast Rivera first-round picks, even though he was here afterwards. That's insane. Shouts out to JP Finley, because I agree. The decision to take Emanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez might be the worst of the Rivera era, and that's quite a list, which takes me to the point, and this is immediately what I thought when I saw JP Finley tweeted this. It tweeted that, and I'm happy that Rigo's Rag said it, because I completely agree. He said, no, actually, Jamin Davis over Darisaw clears that by far as the worst draft blunder that Rivera ever had. I completely agree. Yeah, Emanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez was terrible. One of the worst draft decisions I've ever seen from anybody, but it can't compete with Jamin Davis over Christian Darisaw, dog. Christian Darisaw was insane because it was just so obvious that Christian Darisaw was going to be such a great player, and then they took the risk on Jamin Davis where they could have gotten the better version of Jamin Davis and Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah around later. I mean, that was the worst. We can focus on the Emanuel Forbes thing all we want. Terrible. He deserves it. But that Jamin Davis one was easily the worst. And I agree with Rigo's Rag here when he says, I feel every fan could have made smarter first-round draft choices than Ron Rivera. Which is actually a great point, because a lot of these picks were like a classic case of Rivera thinking he's smarter than everybody else. Just, oh, I'm a genius. Even though everybody else thinks this way, I'm going to go against the grain and think this way. If we literally just let the fan base do a poll where they asked us who we should draft in the first round of every draft that Rivera had, we would have easily have walked away with a better roster than what Ron Rivera gave us. And that's absolutely unforgivable. The obvious picks, the trends, the things that the draft gurus were saying, us fans were saying, insane. There's no way you should ever be worse than armchair GMs and Twitter scouts, ever. It makes literally no sense that you're getting paid millions of dollars to be that terrible at your job. And I was rooting for Ron Rivera because he's a good guy, man. He really is, and I'm always gonna, try to pump him up, man, but at least he came and gave us somewhat of a culture. He took us from the dysfunctional, and he had to deal with Dan Snyder and things like that, but it's still absolutely unforgivable. Especially the part that gets on my nerves the most is that he and Martin Mayhew just kept thinking that even though it's obvious to everybody who the better draft prospects were, they always thought that they were just the smarter guys in the room and that they were geniuses for going against the grain and picking players that nobody expected. I mean, that's the most frustrating part to me about all of this, because we all knew as fans that they were making wrong picks the moment that they made them. It wasn't 2-3 years down the line, hindsight 2020, those weren't good picks. We knew right then and there, once we saw doom, 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 and then that picture popped up of the player that we picked, we already knew as fans. We were just oh my Lord. So Rivera, you owe me a fade for that one, dog, off the bat. And even though I wonder if Rivera is looking at, when I really sit back, is Rivera looking at how all of this is going down and thinks, yeah, that's my bad? Is he owning up to it yeah, I was tripping, you know what I'm saying? Or is he just somehow sitting there thinking, man, if I just had a few more years with those draft picks, I could have developed them in a great player? Who knows? I really hope it's not the latter. It better not. But since August, under the new regime, the Commanders have traded 2022 first rounder Jahan Dotson for a package including a 2025 third, released 2021 first rounder Jamin Davis, released 2023 first rounder Emanuel Forbes. That is a crazy recalibration. That is completely changing the entire franchise top to bottom, especially roster wise, within just one season. They haven't even, Adam Peters hasn't even been here for a full 12 months yet, and he's already done all of that. And don't forget the long pause that Adam Peters took after he was asked about the state of the roster. Here you go.
Adam, David Aldridge with The Athletic. Welcome to DC. I wonder what you think of the current roster.
I believe that there's a few cornerstone pieces in this roster. I believe we have a lot of work to do.
But he looked like he's good at, a lot of these guys that have to talk in front of mics and things like that a lot of the time, they're usually good at like coming up with something nice to say. Like, usually they're like, they find a way to spin it, to keep it political, to keep it vanilla. Like, yeah, even though this situation is bad, I'm going to talk about it in good light. He was left dumbfounded right there. One of the smartest people in the entire NFL had no answer for a simple question like that. That's how bad Ron Rivera set him up with him taking over this team, man. I mean, absolutely insane. This purge was absolutely necessary, man. Shouts out to Bleeding Burgundy and Gold, because I completely agree. He said, you can't convince me Ron wasn't sabotaging us at the end of his tenure, like on purpose. I completely agree. I'm not gonna lie. When I sit back and really reflect on all of this, it's honestly impressive that he could mess things up that bad and that many times. Like, he just couldn't hit on one first round pick, please. Like, it takes a certain level of skill to set a team back as far as he did in just a 4-year span, man. I remember watching the Ravens game a few weeks ago and just looking at all of the players that we could have and should have had making plays against us and being the reasons that the Ravens won the game and we lost the game. Like, literally guys that we should have on our team right now being the reason that the Ravens beat us, man. I mean, there's several examples, but we could just start with Kyle Hamilton alone, because him in the draft balling out against us when we just played the Ravens, we could have had him, but we traded back for Jahan Dotson instead. Then somebody like a Roquan Smith in free agency. We could talk draft and free agency. I mean, we've had a need for linebacker for several years, the entire time that Ron Rivera was here. And we also even had the cap space to go get a Roquan Smith, a Georgia dog, I might add. So you already know I wanted him. If we really wanted to get him, we had the cap space. But Rivera said, nah, we got Jamin Davis, Cody Barton, David Mayo, let's go. And basically, he had that whole mentality like, man, I would know, because my defensive coordinator and I used to be linebackers when we played at the NFL. So if anybody knows what we're doing at the linebacker position, it's us. They clearly did it, man. I mean, just absolutely insane stuff there. And then shouts out to Cooked by Tech on Twitter. He tweeted, worst talent evaluator of all time. There may be a fair argument there. Mark Tyler said 100%. I thought Matt Millen and Mike Mayock were bad, but Ron made those two look like Ozzie Newsome. Shouts out to Rigo's Rag too, because he pointed out the fact that Ron gets a pass for Chase Young. I agree. He kind of gets a pass for Chase Young, even though I feel like if they would have just evaluated him properly, maybe they could have predicted that this would happen. I don't get paid millions of dollars to evaluate this team. They do. They should have seen some signs there that maybe he would not work out. Maybe some of the laziness that we're seeing even from the times that he played for the 49ers in the Super Bowl, or even the Saints recently where he's just taking plays off. Maybe they could have, but at the end of the day, that was like kind of the obvious pick, that's the one that everybody assumed, so he kind of gets a pass for that. But Davis over JOK and Darisaw, the worst one. Trading down for Jahan Dotson instead of just taking Kyle Hamilton and Jamison Williams, ridiculous. And then Emanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez, there's no excuses for those three at all. Also, I do want to point out the fact that even though we cut Emanuel Forbes, don't just assume that means that Marshawn Lattimore will play versus the Tennessee Titans. Remember, he's listed as doubtful in the injury report. The door is not closed, but it's still very unlikely. So don't just assume that cutting Emanuel Forbes equals Marshawn Lattimore will play tomorrow. I just want to go ahead and get that out the way as well, especially since Forbes hasn't played since the Steelers game anyway. It's not like we cut a guy that was contributing and now we need a guy to step in to basically take over the snaps that we lost, he wasn't playing any snaps anyway. So definitely don't just automatically jump to the conclusion that Marshawn Lattimore will play, and that's like the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel for this whole Emanuel Forbes situation. Now, I still doubt that Marshawn Lattimore plays tomorrow versus the Tennessee Titans. And again, I'm in the boat of hoping that he doesn't, so that he can fully rest and be ready against the Saints in this playoff run we got to go on. And then shouts out to Resh Manuel, because I completely agree. He said losing Ekeler for an extended period of time is tough. But as for Forbes, seems like a good kid, but looked completely overwhelmed 90% of the time he was on the field. And then he could even barely compete for special teams. He couldn't do nothing, couldn't return like we were trying to do in the offseason during training camp and things like that. He couldn't do kickoff coverage. He couldn't stop the run. He couldn't set the edge. He couldn't cover. I mean, he literally couldn't even find one niche to at least legitimize why he was on the team, even as long as he was. I mean, that's absolutely insane. Now, before we move on to the second half of this video, gotta tell y'all that this show is sponsored and provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. If you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure, man. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast, because I know I do. And right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And they also have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process too. So it's really like, why not? Now let's take a look at some of the bets that we can get into directly through their website. So we just talked about the highest scoring teams for Sunday's games tomorrow. How about we do the exact opposite? Let's go with the antithesis here. We're looking at Week 13 Sunday. This is Sunday only, not including Thursday and Monday games, or Saturday either. The Sunday only, or Friday. No, that was Friday. That was yesterday that the Chiefs played, right? So no Thursday, no Friday, no Monday, just Saturday, just Sunday. That's it. My fault. Either way, you have the Colts and the Patriots right now as the betting odds favorite to be the lowest scoring game on Sunday. Tied with the Jets, actually. Seahawks and Jets, or the Colts or Patriots, they have the same exact odds at plus 400 to be the lowest scoring games in the NFL this Sunday. Specifically, just Sunday. Again, not Thursday, not Friday, not Monday, just the Sunday games. And they actually have the Titans and Commanders with better odds than I assumed. I thought that game would actually be relatively high scoring, but we'll see. Either way, though, if you wanted to put $25 on this bet, at plus 400 odds, you would quadruple your money. You would put down $25 and end up getting back $100. But y'all already know what I'm going to tell y'all. At this point, y'all already know. I'm screaming at y'all to please gamble responsibly. I think this may be a good bet here, but at the same time, please gamble responsibly. Really, really, really appreciate that. And before we get back to this video, of course, remember that this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And please make sure y'all please gamble responsibly, man. And y'all already know, man, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your final deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YOUTUBE150. Now let's get to talking about Austin Ekeler and everybody else, all of the different things that happen outside of the Emanuel Forbes situation. So also, Austin Ekeler has been placed on the injured reserve after suffering a serious concussion against the Cowboys. And it's so annoying, too, because it was pretty much a pointless play. We already had the miracle of Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin that somehow got us in a situation to potentially tie or win that game, but we just folded it away. Thank you, Austin Seibert, for that. But the Austin Ekeler injury happened on a play that seems so pointless. Like the odds of him being able to return that for a touchdown were so slim. And then he ends up getting hurt and ending up on IR on a play that was pretty much pointless. That's absolutely insane. So that makes it hurt even more. But that does mean that Washington will be without one of its valuable multi-purpose backs for at least a month, at least 4 weeks. Of course, I hope he recovers quickly, but that injury looked really bad. So with the Commanders putting running back Austin Ekeler on IR, that means he's out at least 4 weeks. That means he's eligible to come back into the regular season finale at Dallas if we need him. And honestly, man, I hate to see him hurt and unavailable for us to win games right now, especially kick return wise. But honestly, I'm just happy that they put him on the injured reserve. I really am, because after what I saw, the way that he suffered that concussion against the Cowboys and how he was just laying there perfectly still for a while, and how wobbly his legs were after he actually got up and started walking, like, I was like, nah, man, keep him out at least until after the bye week minimum. Even longer, in my opinion. Like I've been saying for the past few days now, I don't care how much he practiced or didn't practice throughout this week. I don't care if he was a full participant all week. I feel like, honestly, with that especially being his second concussion of the season, I would be sitting him down until off-season practices start. He would be done for the 2024 season, in my opinion, even the postseason, unless he can prove 100%, not 99%, but 100% sure that he is good to go. I would just go ahead and just sit Austin Ekeler for the remainder of the 2024 campaign, regular season, postseason, all of that. That's just me, though, because I'm player safety above all else. I never wish injuries for opponents, nothing. I do not play about that, man, because these guys have lives after football, man. Football is only their first 30-something years. They got to live the last whatever how many years they live with all of the repercussions and the consequences of playing a dangerous sport like this, especially mentally, man, as far as memory and mood swings and all that stuff. So I don't play about none of that. I want Austin Ekeler to get back healthy whenever he can. I don't even want to add as soon as possible to it. Just get back healthy. That's the only thing that matters to me. It would be lovely to have him for this playoff run, but it's honestly not even worth the risk at this point. That Bengals concussion was bad, but the Cowboys one was even worse. Shouts out to JP Finley, because I completely agree with this. Thank you for pointing this out. He said, I've gotten a bunch of questions about Crowder's availability, especially now with Ekeler on IR, but Crowder is still on IR, and they'd also have to activate his window to bring him back. So at the earliest, that's after the bye week, if we can even potentially bring him back, if he's even healthy enough to come back. Just to keep that in mind. So return-wise, it's going to continue to be slippery fingers, Olamide Zaccheaus on punt returns at least, and then kick return-wise, it'll probably be by committee by whoever's even available that game. Ekeler was really like our only standout in the return game that actually had some good returns on a consistent basis and even got us out of our chairs on some returns. So at this point, I'm just hoping that everybody else that's returning kicks for us in his place at this point, just don't mess it up. Don't muff punts, make smart touchback decisions or smart no touchback decisions. Either way, just don't try to be the hero. Just catch these punts, fair catch, take a knee, do decent returns, but please do not try to be the hero, man. Please. That was Austin Ekeler. He was our most explosive and consistent kick returner. Now that he's gone, don't try to do too much, whoever is filling in his place. Also, outside of even the Austin Ekeler to injured reserve and Emanuel Forbes release, the Commanders, now with 2 open spots, elevated 2 players from their practice squad to the 53-man roster, because again, Emanuel Forbes got cut, Austin Ekeler to IR. That leaves 2 spots open. We filled that with defensive tackle Carl Davis and, of course, kicker Zane Gonzalez. That makes so much sense. So there goes your backup kicker, who in fact never missed a single field goal or PAT when he had to step in for us those 2 games against the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles, because the starting kicker in Austin Seibert came back against the Cowboys and lost us the game. I mean, it's really frustrating when you sit back and think about it that 2 of our 3-game losing streak losses have been because of special teams, with Olamide versus the Steelers and Seibert versus the Cowboys. Now, granted, the defense and offense played pretty poorly most of those games as well, so we could put a lot of the blame on them, but literally, if the special teams for those games on our end were just average and played mistake-free football in those games, we still would have won 2 of those 3 games that we just lost. That's so frustrating, man. It's little things, man. It's the smallest things possible that always happen. Also, before we get up out of here in random news, Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner was fined $16,883 for roughing the passer in the 4th quarter against Dallas last weekend. That call frustrated me so much. I mean, I don't think it made like a big enough a difference to where if that doesn't happen, we win the game or anything like that. But that was frustrating to see. And then he also paid for it with money, so that also sucks as well. But shouts out to Bobby Wagner. Let's keep this thing going. He gave the team a big time speech in practice earlier this week, so maybe they turn things around. Remember, he did that for the Seahawks last year, and then they completely looked like a new team after his speech. Hopefully we come out and do the same thing. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting the channel, pulling up all of the time, leaving likes. If you made it this far in the video and you're hearing me talk right now, you are the GOAT, man. I salute you. And also, I appreciate all of the birthday wishes. Today is my birthday, November 30th. So I really appreciate y'all. And we're also gonna I even did like the stream layout to where you know it's my birthday when I'm live streaming tomorrow. Even though my birthday's today, we will still be doing the whole happy birthday celebration thing tomorrow for that game against the Titans. And hopefully the Commanders give me the gift of a W for my birthday. And also, like I said in my previous video, man, shouts out to everybody whose birthdays are around this time as well. Anybody whose birthday was in between the Cowboys game and this Titans game like mine, shouts out to y'all too. Happy birthday to y'all too. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this whole Emanuel Forbes situation. How do you feel about Austin Ekeler going to the IR? Zane Gonzalez now being our starting kicker for until at least at the soonest the last game of the season against the Cowboys. But if Zane Gonzalez doesn't miss a kick from here on there, I don't care how healthy Austin Seibert is, I don't want him back. I thought he was a franchise kicker, but if the way he lost that game for us against the Cowboys, man, I don't know. So I don't care how healthy he is when he comes back. If Zane Gonzalez is balling, you don't fix what's not broken. So let me know how you feel about all of those situations. I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible and tell y'all thank you for all of the birthday wishes. I really appreciate y'all, man. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.